Hello everyone, my name is Valor, and in this video we're going to be talking about one of Jujutsu Kaisen's biggest misconceptions, and it pertains to a certain king of cursed spirits. So, within the Jujutsu Kaisen fandom, Ryomen Sukuna, the king of curses, is often labeled as a cursed spirit, something that, while seems obvious at first glance, isn't actually as true as you think it is. Ryomen Sukuna is referred to multiple times as a curse in early Jujutsu Kaisen, mainly by Megumi, and I believe Gojo also says it at one point. However, this isn't actually what Ryomen Sukuna was. He wasn't actually a cursed spirit, but he was always known as the king of cursed spirits. So this is where this kind of recognition came from. In the Golden Age, he was just such this menace that almost every sorcerer just believed that he was this kind of cursed spirit, and that may be due to the fact that he seems to have evolved in a certain kind of way. That's where, you know, his multiple arms came from, his extra eyes, the fact that he seemingly can use multiple curse techniques, which doesn't really appear to be something anyone else can do. So Ryomen Sukuna is definitely easily mistaken for a cursed spirit, but we know for a fact that he's not actually a cursed spirit. So Kenjaku, someone who was in the Golden Age and knows about Sukuna probably more than anyone else aside from Sukuna himself, or maybe even Ryomen, Kenjaku believes, or I say believes, just outright states that Ryomen Sukuna was a sorcerer, and that currently he's an incarnated sorcerer. So when Kenjaku is talking to Kashimo 400 years ago, Kashimo asks him who's the strongest sorcerer that he knows, and Kenjaku replies with Ryomen Sukuna. Now, there's a clear distinction between curses, cursed spirits, and Jujutsu sorcerers. Sorcerers are humans that can use cursed energy, also known as curse users, and cursed spirits are known as these kind of metaphysical leakage of humans that form just balls of negative energy, essentially. There's this clear separation between the two, and we see that Sukuna never really even once kind of fits that definition of a cursed spirit. He's more so akin to literally Choso. Choso is a perfect analogy to what Sukuna currently is, this incarnated sorcerer. Although Choso's slightly different, so backtracking immediately on that perfect comparison, the principle is the same. I guess you could say Ryu or even Kashimo is a better example. A vessel is someone that ingests a cursed object that contains the soul and cursed energy of a Jujutsu sorcerer. That's what Kenjaku's whole Culling Games was about. He explains that he gave the sorcerers within the Culling Games either the potential as a vessel or their own curse technique by altering their brains with idol transfiguration. He also released cursed spirits into the Culling Games. So he's made three kind of factions within, or divisions within the Culling Games, I should say. He has the Jujutsu sorcerers, the new age Jujutsu sorcerers that he made using idol transfiguration. He has the vessels, the malevolent Yuji Itadoris that he broke the seals on, and out came Kashimo, out came Ryu, out came Oro, these kind of people. Those are the vessels. And he releases cursed spirits like Kurorushi. So we have these three divisions, and Sukuna, Ryomen Sukuna belongs to that second division, that vessel division. And that's what Kenjaku always intended. Because do you think that, like, if Kenjaku really was trying to make a vessel for a cursed spirit, i.e. Ryomen Sukuna, that he would go to such lengths to do it? It seems way more within reason that if Ryomen Sukuna was a cursed spirit, Kenjaku would have been planning all this time to actually absorb or in some way control Ryomen Sukuna's body. Even after he gets Geto's body, he's focused on sealing Gojo instead of, absorbing Sukuna and taking Sukuna's power, he set up the whole vessel, the Sukuna vessel thing. Even after seemingly he had his new body, he continues with that plan. He doesn't alter it once he acquires Geto's body. He has this Yuji plan, and he still goes along with it even after getting Geto's body. So it kind of begs that question. Why is he still doing this when he could work for a way to absorb him, take Ryomen Sukuna's curse technique, something that's considered very dangerous, very powerful? And that could be because he wants Yuji to have it. He wants to create a chaos he couldn't control. It could be because of these reasons. And it could also be that maybe he couldn't absorb it. Maybe he couldn't absorb it because it's a Jujutsu sorcerer and not a actual curse spirit. The main places this comes from, of Sukuna being a cursed spirit, is from Megumi, who seemingly didn't know anything about Ryomen Sukuna other than really his name. All he knew was that Ryomen Sukuna was a strong dude and a dangerous special grade cursed spirit. He didn't seem to really expand on any of Sukuna's backstory. That was mainly Gojo that did that, so it kind of implies that maybe Megumi didn't actually know all too much about Sukuna, which would, further explain why he considers him a cursed spirit. I don't believe Megumi had ever even seen an incarnated sorcerer in that early Jujutsu Kaisen. It seems to be something everyone's kind of figuring out at the time, or as they go. So it makes sense that Megumi would default to what he's known for probably the majority of his life, is this being a cursed spirit, which we now know is just incorrect. It is a incarnated sorcerer, a human who ingests a cursed object and then takes on the information and soul of a previous sorcerer, and that's what happened to Kashima. So if Sukuna is a incarnated sorcerer, then why is he known as the King of Curses? Why is he known, if he's not a cursed spirit, why is he referred to? That's probably because of this kind of selfishness that Sukuna possesses, this kind of disregard for everything else other than himself. Sukuna makes it very clear, and others make it very clear, that Sukuna is so strong, and possibly the strongest ever in Jujutsu Kaisen, because he doesn't care about anything but his own satisfaction, his own whims. He doesn't try to help people unless it's to help himself. He just has this pure, overwhelming selfishness that gets him branded as not even a sorcerer, but a natural disaster. And then that leads us into the fan book, the Jujutsu Kaisen fan book, which is basically just Akutami's Q&A, the author's Q&A, listing all these answers to different questions that he's asked. And when asked about Sukuna, he describes Sukuna as he was less of a Jujutsu sorcerer and more of a natural disaster. It's interesting how Akutami describes Sukuna then as not a less of a curse and more of a natural disaster, but less of a sorcerer, which further ties into, him being a Jujutsu sorcerer, him not actually being a cursed spirit. And I think this distinction, or this confusion I should say, of Sukuna being a cursed spirit comes from maybe his appearance. We know that when Mahito obtained the true understanding of his soul, the grasp upon his soul, when he figured out what his soul truly was, his body changed in response. He became much stronger. He took on this new appearance, and perhaps that's what Sukuna did too. Perhaps Sukuna understood the true value of his soul and what his soul really was meant to be, and that's why Mahito considers it to be on another level, to be completely different from everyone else's, to be so intense. Maybe that's why Mahito considers it to be transcendental in a sense. It's because Sukuna was the first one in the series to truly grasp what his soul was. And maybe that's why his appearance changed too. Maybe that's why he gained those 4 arms, those extra eyes. Maybe that's why he even gained more techniques, who knows. But I think that is why he was branded as this curse, because when all of these Jujutsu sorcerers appear humanoid, looking like a standard human like Kashimo does, like Ryu does, and you come across Ryomen Sukuna, this guy with 4 arms, 4 eyes, half a face, and an overwhelming bloodlust, maybe then you wouldn't consider him a cursed spirit. Maybe he was considered a cursed spirit by proxy because of the amount of fear that was directed towards him. Ryomen Sukuna was the most feared in the Golden Age. Everyone was scared of him. Even in a time when sorcerers were much more vicious, much more brave, they were still terrified of the King of Curses. And maybe that's why he was deemed a cursed spirit, or a curse, is because all this cursed energy was being directed at him, and the fear of Sukuna only made him stronger in an endless feedback loop. Sukuna's strength causes fear, and that fear then feeds Sukuna's strength, which causes more fear, and it just kept looping and looping. And maybe this created this idea of Ryomen Sukuna, that a living cursed spirit, you could say, or a Jujutsu cursed spirit, a sorcerer cursed spirit. Maybe you could say Ryomen Sukuna is the combination of these two aspects. He is a living cursed spirit, maybe. But let me know what you think in the comments below. My name has been Cursed Valor, and I hope you have a wonderful day.